So the first thing we're going to start with is just look at the CELDT data from last year. Because it's important to see where we're headed in terms of where we are at the moment. So what you're going to see is that there was 479 students tested with the CELDT. And of the 479 students, 387 were actually counted in the AMAO. And just for information, AMAO stands for the Annual Measurable Achievement Outcomes. And as you see there, we did meet the AMAO goals, mainly because if you look at AMAO 1, it says the goal is for each child to grow one proficiency level annually. And we'll actually look at the breakdown shortly. The second AMAO that we actually look to meet as a site is to meet a set percentage in terms of the expected student growth, in terms of students reaching proficiency or advanced in terms of their level.
Okay, as you can see, when we compare Gavilan from year to year, there's 2 years there, and then it's compared with the state. We did not make our AMAO 1, and also for the 2. And if you look at it, the district, I see the El Gavilan, we're going up, but I wouldn't consider it going up quick enough. I think we've got to expedite it. And when I looked at the data a little deeper, I saw that most of our weakness was in reading and writing. Our kids are doing really well with their verbal skills and their listening skills, but we really need to focus more on our reading skills and, of course, our writing skills.
Yeah, so if you actually do me a favor, look where it says AMAO 1. The state goal was to have 60.5% of our students meet AMAO 1, which is basically improving one level or more in terms of proficiency. And at El Gavilan, we managed to get 55.8%, which is close, but not close enough. So that means that we just got to work harder to make sure our students are achieving that AMAO, meaning that we want them to at least advance one or more levels in terms of proficiency. And if you look at AMAO 2, it's broken down into 2 subcategories. The first subcategory being students that have been working at it for less than 5 years, and then the students have been working at it for more than 5 years in terms of reaching classification and or advancing sufficiently. So in terms of students that have been at it for less than 5 years, the goal was to have 24.2 students advance. We reached 17.6%. And in terms of the students that have been at 5 years or more, the goal was 50.9%, and we got 40.5%.
And as the leader there, I feel like when kids are with us for 5 or more years, we should have significantly higher numbers than that.
So in terms of the data results, just for the sake of keeping it under the 3 minutes, 216 students grew 1 or more SAL level, which is pretty good. First and fifth grade actually met the AMAO 1 in terms of students reaching proficiency, so that tells us that we've got to work more with second, third, fourth, and sixth to make sure that their ELD goals are being met, or the SELF goals are being met. 171 students either showed no growth or dropped a SELF level, and 111 students are at proficiency or advanced level currently.
Okay, our next slide talks about some things that, some instructional practices that need to be developed more, and clear lesson objectives is very important to have the students understand what they're learning and what they're supposed to be doing. We have written language. Kids really have to start reading and writing more. And so writing is everything. Worksheets are out and have been out for years, so we have to get rid of them also. Maximizing student oral and written practices, that is so important. I think we're doing a good job with the oral because we're doing it with the GLAD where they have discussions, and we're doing more discussions in the classrooms. But the written practice is still real slow. Closed reading strategies, that's newly being developed in the district, and it's just something we have to teach kids and teach the teachers how to teach it. So we'll be making progress in that area also.
And in terms of that next steps, in terms of strategizing intervention, we basically list some of the stuff that we already have in place in terms of interventions and try to identify how we can improve them and find different interventions that we also incorporate to make sure that our students are receiving that equitable education, which is our ultimate goal for each child. So what you see here are some of the interventions that we already have in place, starting with the individual learning folders, typically targeted from kinder to first grade, and the focus is mainly on literacy skills and foundational literacy skills. And through kinder and second grade, we also have instructional pull-out support, and that typically comes in the form of phonics reading and or ILF, which was previously mentioned. And also in first and second grade, we have Imagine Learning, which is a computer-based software where students actually work on it and practice vocabulary development, foundational literacy skills. And kids in sixth grade have ELD blocks, and during those ELD blocks, we try to incorporate GLAD, Rally, and science and history, and try to put it all together in terms of teaching the students how to be able to have those foundational English language skills in a fun and engaging way.
Okay, these are just some more of our interventions that we're going to be working with. You're familiar with most of them. System 44, I understand, will also go to fourth grade this year. We're using rewards intervention, and that's been really helpful with our older kids to help them with their writing skills. Imagine Learning, and then of course this year we did get ST Math approved through TK through 6, and we have over 600 students on it now. We started it last week, so please come by and see it in action. It's really an awesome program.
Yeah, just pretty much finish off with actually showing you more or less what ST Math looks like.
And there's our new computer lab. Yay to our the helpers who built. They actually built that. So, boy, I tell you, we have a great maintenance team because they came in, they took that classroom apart and created tables for us. I told them what we wanted, and that is actually also going to be used for professional development and meeting rooms. Those are laptops, the Chromebooks. They come off the table. We store them every night so that we don't be damaged, and we can use that room for anything. So please come by, see the room, and Mr. Stratton, thank you so much for your team coming in to help us build that. And there's a projector there, and you got to come by and see the kids. It's awesome. You'll love it. Thank you so much.
Any questions? Do you have any questions from the board? There's a hand up in the air.
Explain the 17.6% on the one slot for schools with less than 5 years.
Can you explain why it's
Yeah,
there or what
the
it
extra
is?
mark there.
Right there.
Yes.
Oh, well, I would put an asterisk mark there because it's far below where I would want it to be. But that specifically, I don't know why that one's there. But if I was looking at it, that would be my choice, is that I would highlight that one, looking at data and saying that's far too low. We've got kids less than 5 years. That doesn't mean that we should have, it should be more of a spread. The kids should be pulling this up after 3 years. Those scores should be going up. So the 3-year, 4-year, and 3 and 4 years should be higher scores. So that's something that I think you got to look at the data in more detail, but it's a great question. And if you want to call me, I'll look it up and call you tomorrow, or leave me your number. Okay?
And another reason as to why I added that asterisk is because generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, it usually takes a child 5 or more years to learn a new language. And because that was less than 4 years, I thought it would be interesting to focus on that and see the difference in terms of how quickly they pick up. Question? Other questions?
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You'll see me at the campus. Yeah. Okay. Monterey Park. Okay, please.
Good evening, board and cabinet. I'm Brian Hayes from Monterey Park, and tonight I am going to present our self data. Ernesto, did you have that?
Yes, I did. I apologize. Trying to sabotage you.
So I was trying to find some sort of cute cover for the beginning of our presentation, and our first grade class for Dr. Seuss's birthday was creating these cat in the hat pictures, and I thought it was great representative because we wanted to develop a love of reading as well. This year we had 190 students take the exam. Of that 190 students, 82 improved, 84 maintained their score, 24 dropped. Overall, we had an 87.4% improved or maintained from the previous year. When we look at our annual measurable achievement outcomes, for AMA 1, we had 48.4% of our students grow at least one level, and that was up 2.9% from the previous year. However, our target was 60.5, so we did not meet our AMAO goal for number 1. looking at AMAO goal number 2, whether or not the students had attained proficiency within less than 5 years. We had 11.7% of our students attain proficiency. Our target was 24.2, so we also have some growth to work there as well. For students that have been at Monterey Park for 5 or more years, only 18.8% of those students attained proficiency. So we do have a lot of work to do at Monterey Park to assist our English language learners, and that is really a focus for next year that I'm going to really look at and identify those students and help them along. Breaking it down into the categories for listening, we had 144 students grow or maintain, and 34 drop. So the 52 are the students who maintained. For speaking, we had 157 students that grew or maintained, and once again it was 54 that maintained and 21 dropped in speaking. In reading, we had 146 students grow or maintain, which was 97, and 32 students dropped. For writing, we had 158 students that grew or maintained, and the number for maintained was 92, and 20 dropped. So we really want to use our program. We have our ORS database, which will really let us look at our self-data, and it will specifically show us which students are having difficulty, or the students that are dropping, or students who have maintained, so we can target our interventions based upon those students. And I plan on working with my leadership team and my teachers next year to really target those specific students and to use our data to improve there. Overall, Monterey Park's #1 goal is that every student will meet the academic expectations to successfully transition to middle school. And of course, they need to have strong English skills in order to do so. To help our students, we continue to put a focus on scaffolding our primary instruction, strengthening our RTI systems. In fact, my leadership team is meeting Wednesday to go over our RTI and start planning for next year. I also would like to start meeting individually with students. Those students who are dropping or maintaining, they need to be aware of what their scores are and what they can do personally to improve. So I want to give students individual goals as well. We're expanding Imagine Learning daily for 30 minutes for our kindergarten through 2nd grade students. And we're hoping that that time in the program will also assist them in acquiring the language skills. Recently, we sent a group of teachers to CABE here in Monterey. We wish we could have attended the larger CABE conference, but we did send a group to CABE Monterey, which was wonderful. And there, our teachers looked at the new ELD standards and what that looks like. And for a lot of our teachers, it was really the first exposure to those new standards. And we started to really look at ways that we could incorporate them into our instruction for next year. Okay, any questions regarding Monterey Park's self-scores?
Okay, Ms. Barnes?
Just have a question. I'm a little confused on the numbers. You said 158 grew, and then in parentheses you had 92, and then you had 20. Do we add them all together, or where? It's a little confusing.
Okay, sorry about that. The 92,
Just one of them is an example. Yeah.
so what that really is that it's 158 total grew or maintained. And then I wanted to put in parentheses how many actually maintained. So that's
The numbers
92.
didn't add up to the 158, so I was confused.
Yes, and I apologize that. I just wanted to show that, I wanted to show the number of the actual students who maintained,
Okay,
which
so
was
the
at
remainder
92.
is the people who grew.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
I do want to make a comment, if I may, not only to you, but to your colleagues as well. I've been here at the district office early in the morning and finding out that the principals are studying how to be stronger and how to work together, how to share information together, and sort of like coach each other. And that unites the district. At the same time, you're on the same level right across the district. There is a lot of need there, but at the same time, you're talking to each other. All the principals who attend these meetings with the superintendent is that you bring in a bridge, that it's a human bridge,
Yes.
that addresses the whole issue at once instead of just, I'll do my thing, you'll do your thing, and you catch up if you want to catch up. But this is teamwork. recognize that the principals have been also building the team for the children and the parents,
Yes,
as
right.
well as their teachers and the other staff.
Definitely, and I would just like to comment that our pivot training this past year was, it was really beneficial in that area, of bringing the principals together, giving us some common language and a common focus. But additionally, after each principals meeting, we have principal collaboration, which is also a time for the principals to come together and share ideas and to collaborate. And that, for being a new principal, that's been extremely valuable for me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have one more principal. What's the name of the school? The one I graduated from? You keep saying you can't graduate from elementary, I did.
Good evening, board. Good evening, Dr. Lisa, cabinet. My name is Juan Chaides, and I'll be presenting on behalf of Sherwood Elementary School, home of the Sharks. So our presentation on SELDT data for MAO. Number one is overall, 49% of our English learners progress at least one English proficiency level or more. That's similar to the district average of 49%. We also looked at a breakdown by grade. So in front of you, you could see first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, the percentage of students that moved, progressed at least one proficiency level or more. Overall, students making one proficiency level progress or more progress last year was at 43%, and this year we are at 49%, so it also increased from last year to this year. For this year, 609 English learners were tested, and our total enrollment is 867, which is 70% of our student population are English learners at Sherwood School. For AMAO2, students receiving English instruction less than 5 years, attaining proficiency is at 11.7, a bit lower than the district percentage. Students receiving English instruction 5 years or more, attaining proficiency, very close, 34.1% to the district. However, last year, 2013-2014, students attaining proficiency was at 26.9%, and this year it was at 34.1%. Again, not where we want to be, but we are moving towards meeting the targets. That is our goal. The interventions for this year that took place to support student achievement, first big one was direct instruction school-wide. This is an approach that we leveled all students according to their reading language and leveled across the grades, within the grades, school-wide. We also provided Imagine Learning intervention for 4 classes, a total of 69 students. Phonics for reading, there were 5 classes receiving intervention, a total of 38 students. Systems 44, there were 2 classes of 43 students total receiving that intervention. Instructional aid push-in for grades kinder through 2nd, we had 54 students receiving instructional aid support. Kinder teacher-led ILF interventions, all 5 kinder teachers provided interventions to kindergarten students in an extended day approach. Those were 47 students that stayed after their half-day kinder instructional day to receive additional support by the kinder teachers themselves. We also had kinder teacher pullout. Our kinder teachers also continued their day to support first grade. For part of the time, more towards the beginning of the year, kinder teachers were also providing support intervention for second grade. However, looking at the data midway through, we realized that we needed to provide a lot more intervention to our kinder students. And so therefore, second grade, we shifted resources and had second grade get instructional aid support so that our kinder teachers could focus on their own kinder students. Overall, after-school intervention programs, we have 25 classes of supporting 313 students. So this is dedication of our teachers at Sherwood School that we're providing, were because we've already pretty much are near the end, but 25 classes, 25 teachers providing after-school support interventions to 313 students. So laying the foundation, this year, our major emphasis and focus was school-wide professional development and implementation of OVEA's anti-bullying program, the PBIS program, PlayWorks, and restorative justice. We felt that we needed to take care of making sure that our students and staff felt safe, supported, and nurtured so that they can focus on the big piece of teaching and learning. So another piece that we also worked on, and we're just scratching the surface, is school-wide planning and collaboration on Common Core state standards curriculum mapping, integrated thematic units incorporating GLAD and RALI strategies, closed reading using SNAP learning with emphasis on the 6 English language arts shifts, and also focusing on developing structured oral academic language and student engagement strategies. Those are the pieces that we provided our staff with some support, especially with SNAP learning to assist in teaching the 6 ELE shifts in the Common Core. And I'm happy to say that we'll continue for next year as well. And district-wide, I'm hearing. For next steps, continue to survey our parents, provide workshops for our parents. We have a parent coordinator that works with our parents in those areas, and we plan on continuing to have a parent coordinator, outreach coordinator. We also plan to continue our curriculum mapping on the Common Core state standards and the math and English language arts shifts. That piece is something that we're also looking at a district-wide level to have consistency across schools. Also, data analysis, we will be looking at that to guide instruction and determine interventions. And that is something as well that we're looking as a district to create consistency and focus so that we can have the accurate data to support and making determinations for our interventions and our daily instruction as needed. We're going to also implement the district initiatives, of course, that's closed reading, informational text, and argumentative writing. From what you've heard from the previous presentations, I mean, those are the biggest needs that we're looking at. Closed reading, addressing the shifts in the Common Core, informational text to support our students in developing their academic language, along with the oral language with sentence structures, and a big piece is the writing piece. That needs to, happen at a school-wide level. Well, I'm speaking for Sherwood. A school-wide writing campaign is what we're planning for next year as a team at Sherwood School. We also want to continue to improve our school climate, our parent involvement, and our enrichment opportunities for all of our students. Obviously, we're working on academics as well, but we also understand that by providing enrichment opportunities for all of our students, it makes them want to come to school, makes them motivated, makes them feel part of the school, and that is also a big piece to getting our kids and our students, obviously our students, to succeed academically as well and feel connected to their teachers and to the school. And we'll just go to the last slide, I guess. So our last slide is Sherwood Elementary School on the Move. And that is, those are some of our students performing in front of the community, in front of their parents and families. Royal King Dance Academy came in and provided a week-long enrichment opportunity for our students as they took, this was, a lot of this work was done after all the testing that's been going on and providing our students that balance of academics and movement and visual performing arts. And then we don't always dress like this, Mr. Marcus and I, but it was a Western Spirit Day, Western School Spirit Day, Western Wear Day. Yeah, there you go. So Sherwood School Elementary School on the Move. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, you will have questions up there, Ms. Lawrence.
Well, I didn't want to ask any questions, but I just want to thank you. I mean, here you are, a brand new teacher to our district, a principal to our district, and this is really impressive. And I want to thank you for that because, one of our goals, of course, was to get kids at grade level. And when I see all of those resources going to the kindergarten teachers and you had a 70% at first grade, that's impressive. So thank you for everything you've done for the school and all three presentations, all the principals, because what we're seeing when you do this is that what we ask, you're implementing. The teachers are working really hard, and we might not see all the improvements this year, but in a couple of years from now, it's going to be really nice. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
Well, yes, thank you. And it takes a team. We have a great team of teachers that are very dedicated, and our students come in respectful, responsible, and ready to learn. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Richards. Yes, ma'am.
The next presentation. I'm just moving us along. I'm here to present on the English Learner Master Plan. Real quick, I didn't plan on being this quicker. So we have an English Learner Master Plan. We are going to be having a new printed edition as well as an online edition. The master plan, of course, is founded in federal law, state law, California Ed Code, district policies and regulations, and our district mission, and it says strategic plan, but our LCAP, so that it's aligned with our current LCAP. And part of the reviewing and revision process in this document, we have a very strong document that's very specific in some areas in terms of naming actual assessments that were the assessment of that time period. But with the rapid changes that we're seeing with several areas, we're going to leave some language in there broad enough to just call it the state designated California English Language Development Test, because we are going to print a new one, and we will have a new assessment in 2 years whose name is not completely established. And the same with the SBAC. If our current edition talks about the, I'm thinking before the CST was the CAT 5 maybe? CAT 6, okay. So it has a lot of specificity that over time has changed, and while we can update digital versions, we will be having print versions available on our school sites, in the libraries, and in the offices. So in order to not have to make those changes as frequently or to have outdated documents, we will be trying to be as broad yet specific as we can when it comes to terminology in some areas, while still staying compliant with the law, if that makes sense. I am, sorry, these are really small up on the large screen, but a large part of our document is aligned with the federal program monitoring cycle. We will be reviewed as a district next year with on-site visitations, and one of the programs, by the nature of the percentage of English learners we have in the district that is automatically reviewed when we are reviewed, is our program for English learners. And there are 20 elements that they will be looking at when they come. You see 1 through 11 listed on this slide, and we'll go to the next slide. The reason, when we're reviewing this document, we're making sure we're aligned with what is expected to occur in districts. One area where we've had findings before in the past was number 4, the English Learner Advisory Committee at the ELAC level. At the site level, there have been, over periods, not quite the consistent implementation of a strong ELAC program as it should be. So we'll be making, in our document, we have it outlined very well, but we need to make sure what is in our document is happening on our school campuses. So that's an area where we didn't make changes, we will be making sure that all sites are in compliance as we do require them to, but we will be monitoring very closely, especially, well, all sites, but we have 2 sites that they will be visiting specifically. And perhaps the process has changed in the past, but part of the process before was they really came and they didn't want to leave without finding a finding. So even if you were perfect, they felt their role was to find something wrong. So they would look. So even when they did find that, it was minutia. Another area where districts often run into problem is number 6, identification, assessment, and notification. I will say as a district, it's a very strong area for us. We have, we put in systems many years ago that are centralized. We have a small group of people that monitor the paperwork for the identification, the initial assessment, and then the notifications to go out to parents. It is not a process that is individualized at all of our 13 school sites. It's handled very centrally so that there's consistency. Another area where we will be doing an extra special review would be element 9, the EL program inclusion in the development of the school plan. That is another area where districts are often, not ours to date, but where districts are often found out of compliance. And so we have it detailed there, but we're going to make sure to highlight some of these areas when we're doing professional development on the master plan with our site administrators for the upcoming year. We did not make any dramatic changes, as I said, in the master plan, nothing of substance. Let me go to the second one. Changed. What we did was just update it with current language. We took out a lot of the sections in the funding area because, as we know, the California funding system changed, and a lot of our language in that referred to EIA, Economic Impact Aid, that those dollars no longer exist as designated as such. So all of that language was removed. We did acknowledge that there is monies that districts can receive under supplemental and concentration based on a large part by the number of English learners they have. So that is acknowledged in that section. The other area where we will, which is number 14 on here, is reclassification. As I presented, I believe this year and last year, we are in an interim period for our reclassification criteria. The elements have not changed on what need to be reviewed, but because the previous year the students didn't take the CST, this year all students 3rd through 6th took the SBAC, but the state has not established a minimum criteria that the students must reach on that exam to be considered for reclassification. So the direction from CDE has been for districts to use local criteria in that area. So we are currently have established a matrix with star reading scores because it's an assessment given to all students and monitors that. So that's another area where we probably will print it as such and have a big asterisk saying as soon as the state has established specific guidelines, we would adopt the state guidelines. But at this point, we are living under the state guidelines. They just are not what they will be going forward. And the other area where I will talk about that under reclassification, a lot of districts have findings in that area. We are again, it's something that's happened that's systematic and it's centralized. So all students are reviewed for reaching reclassification on a centralized level, and then the individual work happens at the school sites, in whether in notifying parents, setting up meetings, and having paperwork filled out by teachers. But the monitoring process is not something that's left up to the individual site levels, because part of the reclassification process involves the district monitoring for each reclassified student for 2 years after they've reached that goal. And again, that's something that's not left up to individual school sites. It's centrally done so that we ensure that it is done. We often receive CUMES and things from neighboring districts or districts within the state. And it's not as consistent and clear, and you can't tell that a student's been monitored after they've been reclassified in that other district. And I will say that we developed a CUME insert many, many years ago, and it was, the county actually modeled the one that they then had and tried to have other districts use to be in compliance after the CUME insert that was created here in this district, because we are very good at monitoring our students. As we saw in the AMAO presentation, other areas where we are still working to get stronger are in our results, in our growth of our students in terms of their language acquisition and their academic growth as well in addition. But I will say that in some of those results, we give you our SELT results, all of our school plans. What you don't get systematically always is the percentage of students that are reclassified. So you saw 31 students from El Gavilan. So those 31 students were taken out of their AMAO2 scores, because every year by nature, the top achieving students on the SELT are removed from taking the SELT again. So it's always something to factor in, and it's something we have to get better at, making sure we're letting folks know that we do have students that are exiting the English Learner program. And I will just say in other areas where something we want to make sure that we continue to do, and we are good about doing, is making sure that our parents have access to the information regarding their rights as parents of English learners. And their rights, there's a nice pamphlet they get. We have a video an oral video that they can watch, and that's presented at school sites annually if they don't want to read the entire packet. But the parents of English learners do have rights in terms of the educational programs that their children are enrolled in. And so those are areas where we've made no changes. We're still following the state law, and it's just something that we always have to remember to do, because annually we need to let parents know of their educational rights as the parents of English learners, and definitely to all newly enrolled kindergarten families who are just starting their educational journey in our district. That's the cover. Our plan is titled Access and Equity. It's not being renamed at this point. It's just going to be, the document will get some new graphics and everything and be modernized and condensed a bit. And some of our document currently has a lot of the forms and everything that we use embedded in it. Those are all going to be put into an appendix in the back, because those are things that we do have to change as the assessments change, but we don't need to reprint a 200-page or 175-page document when we change one form. And that's just the table of contents. Again, those elements there all align to these 20 monitoring components, and we aren't making any huge changes. I know I will address one area, because I know it's an area that's come up. We do have, regarding student placement, in terms of appropriate placement with students to teacher, the intermediate Spanish level has come up. That is something that is in this master plan. This master plan, while I didn't state it there, was also in its most recent edition done under the watch of the Office of Civil Rights while we were under an open review. And that was one of the areas where it helped close their active monitoring and review, as they looked at that as an additional strategy to support our earliest language learners in terms of our students at the beginning and early intermediate level. Having a teacher that could provide some access to students in their primary language, in this case, I believe it's almost 99% of our students, it's actually 99 point something of our English learners have Spanish as their primary language. It is to have them placed with teachers that have intermediate or above Spanish, in the hopes that that would be used as an instructional strategy to support access to the content while the students are learning English. So that is an element that is still there. Again, other terminology that's going to be updated is a lot of the terminology in terms of teacher credentialing, because that has changed, and a lot of it will just say the certification to work with English learners or the equivalent, because it was the CLAD SB 69. Now it's, I should know, CELDT. I believe CELDT, it's changed often, so I believe it can change in the future. Do you have any questions?
Ms. Barnes?
Just a quick question. How does a teacher find out what level Spanish they're in? Do you have the records? Does personnel? How do they go about it?
Personnel has the records. They were at one time kept in the bilingual migrant department. So if for some reason personnel didn't have it and it was a long-time employee, those records all still exist. Our department secretary, Rafaela Jimenez, does not throw a paper away. So believe me, when there's something needed in this district, she usually has a copy of it. So they were transferred over to personnel to keep them there, but we also have maintained the records. So especially if it's a longtime employee, she has their records of what they presented to the district in terms of their level.
So the long-term employees go to you and the others go to...
No, they all would go to Ms.
Because
Williams.
personnel told me if they didn't have them, that's... why
Okay,
I'm
so
asking.
yeah, and if it's a long time, direct them to our department, and we'll work together with personnel, but hopefully they would communicate and personnel would communicate with us to get that. But yeah, if it's a particular person that's looking, have them, when in doubt, just contact us, and between the two departments, we'll track down.
And how
the
is
information.
a teacher assessed to their level of Spanish if they're in that situation? What do they have to do?
They have submitted coursework demonstrating that they have achieved a specific level of Spanish proficiency. And we've also worked sometimes with the adult school for teachers to go just take the placement test in lieu of taking coursework. And in a rare exception, we have given assessments here.
So the adult school is probably the best place for people.
And if in doubt, again, we can work with them to make sure that they're not wasting their time in taking an assessment that won't help them. So.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Mr. Foster?
That's good, thanks.
No questions? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Sorry. This school accountability report card. Okay.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Lusa, members of the board, colleagues, and members of the audience. I'm Beatriz Chavez, Director of Pupil Personnel Services. Joining me is Terry Ryan, Director of Maintenance, Operation, Transportation, and Food Services. And we're here tonight to provide an update on the SARC revision. If you recall in our previous presentation, we cited the Ed Code, which delineates the process for reporting the pupil expenditures on the SARC, because obviously the SARC has many components. We're just speaking to the per pupil expenditure portion. And there was a call for a revision because there was obviously some information that hadn't been updated in many years. So we're in the process of doing that. And like we mentioned in the past, so the Ed Code, and then just also the categories that we use to determine the per pupil expenditures. So the next 3 slides will be addressed by my colleague Terry, and he'll provide some updates on the revisions we found up to date.
And before we switch from this slide, while this looks like a very short list, account code descriptions 1,000 to 7,300, what we're doing right now as we move into the next 3 slides is going through some old records on 3 different computer systems, trying to ensure that we are gathering as much factual data as possible. And I say that before we show the graphs to you, because the graphs have some very significant reasons for looking like they do. And what we're going to see on the graphs is the expenditure per pupil, because that's what we're here for. And we're still comparing between 09, 10, and 12, 13. 12, 13 being the most recent year. 9, 10, the year that we believe got rolled over, and every year was rolled over until we got to our questions this year on the 12, 13 report, which is due in 14. So what we see here, and I've arranged these. I'm doing I'm doing the financial presentation stuff. I'm not doing the financial work. It's very, very challenging to get into the systems and extract the data. So what we're doing here is there's no rhyme or reason necessarily for how they're not alphabetical across the bottom. What they are is a representation of how skewed any one year can based on enrollment and a number of other factors, how these graphs can get skewed. When we first opened Lincoln in 2000 and, well, this is the 09-10 report, we spent $9,000 per student. Well, we don't see that anyplace else, and it's all because of this particular slide. There were 100 kids in the school. So that same factor would apply any place else in this data. If what we're showing here is expenditures, we're going to look at enrollment in just a minute. But if the expenditures back in 09, it's a very dynamic process. We see that the numbers were high. The green line is the 09 number, and the gray or purple line is the bar, is the 12-13 number. So now we see that this has skewed the other way, and in this particular case, we've got Sherwood at about $6,200, actually at 66. I know these numbers pretty well on the graph. $6,600 per student, and we've got a bunch of schools in here coasting along at between 4 and under 5 until we get to Los Padres and Natividad. So we're going to confirm these numbers before we publish them on the web again, and that's the work we're doing. Here's the enrollment comparison. Because we know this is the important stuff, the expenditure per pupil, that's what we're doing. One of the factors is enrollment. What does enrollment do? These schools are in the same alignment as the prior slide, and I'm going to show that to you on this slide. So here's per pupil, and here's the enrollment. Basically what this tells us is enrollment is going up dramatically at some of our schools. There's Lincoln at now 400, and that was in 14. It's much higher than that. And we've got enrollment increases on every one of these bars. As the enrollment increases, there isn't necessarily a correlation here. This all seems to have been falling off for a host of reasons that are unique to each school's financial budget and planning and programs. Some of the money that ends up being spent, some of the money that gets shown being spent out here could be carryover from the year before. And it didn't get spent the year before. We're only looking at single years here, so it pops up the next year. So, variables that impact per pupil expenditures, capital outlay, changes in staff, the benefits that we go through to try and determine what's, we're doing this on restricted and unrestricted. And we're getting better at what we're doing on the analysis because we're trying to do some checking and cross-checking to make sure our numbers always come out right. And then the funding sources, which I already mentioned. So those are the variables. The revision process is ongoing. We're not stopping. We're here to tell you that we're continuing the process. And those are the steps that we're doing to get that process completed. That's it. Questions?
Just one quick question. That carryover money, then it skews the results. So maybe at some point it'd be nice to see if you pulled that out. I don't know. It's just for a visual.
Sure. We've tried a number of different ways to smooth the line, figure out where the change is, and we actually have identified that Sherwood, there was $600 per pupil above Natividad. We have found 300 of it. So, and it's just in the cost of doing business. So we'll see if we can find the other 300. And if these are the numbers, some of my peers in the business office say if these are the numbers that we're going to publish.
Because I think when people look at it, there's such an inequity in the, it appears that there is, but there really isn't.
Travis, are you going to say something?
No, I'm just here to answer questions.
Question on the floor?
You got
I have a question about this.
Yeah, go ahead. I do the same thing, but go ahead.
So my question is, how did this get missed for 5 years and who discovered it?
Right here.